Boy, howdy, AEW Dynamite was a work in progress. It's not completely finished, even though they aired it on February 26th. I think it needs some work. Maybe they can fix it in post for a re-release. Oh, this thing, I mean, I'm not going to be here for hours picking it apart, and I could be, but I just want to hit some of the high points. It's not really even our duty at this point to try to impart the stories or the angles or the build of the matches because it's just everywhere. It's all what was the title of that movie? Everything, everywhere, all the time.
All at once.
All at once. In San Diego, they were jacking it in San Diego this week. And whereas they were, remember we mentioned this as a ratings ploy, they were starting the show off with boom, as soon as the show comes up, no open, no theme music, just straight into the arena, and here comes somebody out of the entranceway and they get in a fight. Well, now I almost longed for those halcyon days of yore because this show, they had Edge pull up in an ambulance and get out and say, this is what the Death Riders are riding home in. And that was it, like a 10-second fucking clip. And then they go to the announcers. And again, Taz and Tony look fine. You would accept them as, of course, without listening to Tony, they look fine. You would accept them as announcers. And here is this fucking self-indulgent clown in this mask. And it just looks ridiculous. And they do endless show billboards. And then we go to a clip of earlier today, MJF got his AEW tattoo removed and cut a promo while the guy was doing whatever you do to remove the tattoo because he's mad at the fans for not cheering him when he gave their whatever the case. Then they're in the back again, and Adam Page pulls up in what kind of dinky little pickup truck was that thing, or truck of whatever nature? It had bull horns on it, but it looked like something that kids had put together in a fucking, well, a little soapbox derby contest. What was happening there? You're a man about town and knows about vehicles these days.
I think they said he was driving a Prius, but someone else told me it was a Rivian, which is an electric vehicle that stock has been in the toilet for way too long because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But it was one of those two with horns on top of it.
So it not only has to be funny, but he has to be a pussy while he's being funny. Stone Cold Steve Austin would come in a beer truck, or The Rock comes in his goddamn giant pickup truck, or, you know, Punk came in a Lamborghini or whatever it was. This guy comes in a fucking pussy little truck with goddamn funny horns on it.
He's socially conscious. That's what you want out of your top babyface, the cowboy hangman. The socially conscious hangman.
I don't know if he's goddamn physically conscious. But he pulled up and walked into the arena, and they played his music, and he made his entrance to the ring, and he beat a job guy in 1 minute or so, and then got the microphone, sat down in a chair, and called out MJF. And MJF comes out to the entranceway and throws a white bloody hand towel down that he was holding. I assumed that he had cut himself shaving. And then for about 45 seconds, MJF was back to his old self. He was cutting the promo, but he was back to being a smart ass. And, you know, he's going back to New York to train his tookus off because he's so scared about Adam Page, and he's mocking him, and he's not screaming, and he's not just cussing for the sake of it. A brief period where we can remember once again the good old days. But then he said, and he was awfully worried about Hangnail's friend, and you should check on him. And then he just turned around and he walked out, and the fans were quiet and puzzled, as well as old Mr. Page, the caca cowboy. because it was kind of, huh? And then here it became. As MJF is walking back through the tunnel to exit stage right, and Paige is standing there dumbfounded, like, what did he mean by that? On the screen, we are supposed to see Christopher Daniels laying in the back, bloody and profusely bleeding and having been attacked and left laying. Of course, I guess they became friends, Paige and Daniels, right after Paige crippled Daniels and ended his career. But nevertheless, check on your friend.
He died a warrior's death, was what he said.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't have been resurrected, but that's what we were supposed to see. But what we saw when they cut to the camera going to the screen is the handheld camera moving up on Chris Daniels while he's knuckling himself in the fucking head. And the first thing you see is this guy that's supposed to have been attacked and be down, punching his own self in the face. And there was a lot of, there was a lot of controversy, because people said they put it all over Twitter and it trended, and they've caught him blading himself. No, that's not what it was. But they said it's in 4K and everybody's got a shot of either from the show or a shot of their screen showing the show. And look what stupid shit. And how is Uncle Dave going to explain this and all that kind of stuff? Here's what was happening. First, we'll tell you what was happening. Then we'll try to explain why it happened. Chris Daniels, in my opinion, and I watched this in slow motion, I think he did get legitimate color in the back for this angle, because I could see some blood oozing from a cut. The way the front of his shirt looked, unless he was just able to really, even without having a sweat worked up and out his blood pumping and not in a match, if he was able to go deep enough to get a gusher to goddamn just sit there and drip on his shirt, maybe they augmented the shirt. I don't know. But I think he did get some color for real. But the problem was, apparently, by the time that he got in position and, it was waiting for all these other things to happen, it stopped bleeding. Because what he was doing was he was knuckling himself. If you take, and you can go on YouTube on some of the old matches, you might see a guy or two doing this. It's not uncommon if you know what to look for. But if you've got a gig mark, either a fresh gig mark that's quit bleeding, or if you get juice a lot back in the territory days from the previous night before, instead of cutting yourself again, you can knuckle it and it'll start bleeding. You either take the point of the middle knuckle of your middle finger and do what Chris Daniels was doing, boom, 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 right on the cut. Some guys would make a fist and take the bottom knuckle at the hand of their index finger and kind of the back of their fist to their head, which is it looks a little bit less like you're punching yourself in the face. It's not meant to be seen on camera. It's, another little sleight of hand deal. But he was knuckling himself to get it to bleed more. But it was on camera. It was up there with Hulk Hogan on the Saturday night's main event. They'd give me the count, brother, and start crying over Elizabeth's death or whatever. And so then anybody that's seen that can't unsee it. And then this whole thing is fucking shot, but it doesn't end there. Because but did I explain the knuckling correctly? There could have been some augmentation on the shirt. I think it was legitimate blood coming from his head, and that's what he was doing, because he was given no idea, apparently, or no count from when he was going to be on camera.
I think that's what he was doing, although that's a horrible defense. He was blading on camera. No, he was just punching himself in the head.
Yeah, he was just trying to open up an old gig, but that explains that. And how it happened, we'll explain in a second, because there's more. Because when Paige gets freaked out over seeing his friend laying there. He goes to the back with a chair, and he's walking through the back, and he's screaming, "Where is he? Where is he?" Now the camera is following Page from behind, so you're looking past him, so you can see that straight out to the back door there of the arena, there are like at least a half a dozen people just standing there. Just standing there. They're not moving. They're not reacting. They're just standing there. And then as Page turns, you can see that those people would have had a clear view, not only of this Daniels being attacked, but Daniels laying there in a bloody fucking heap. They would have been looking at him already. Is it common that when you're standing in a goddamn public sports arena and you look over 30 feet away and there's a guy laying there covered in blood, that you would not call somebody? But they're standing there. But as Page turns the corner to the right to go find his friend, the camera's still following him. And in the background, you see the camera crew, the cameraman, the producer, the cable puller, and I think some miscellaneous fucking stooge that were shooting Chris Daniels for the shot on the screen. They either see the camera turn the corner or they are told on an IFB from the truck, "Get the fuck out of the shot," because they suddenly go into ninja mood and crouch down and fucking zoom, like run from the. So they're running out of the shot like little rats as Page goes over and sees Daniels laying there bloody. And then what does Page do? He turns around and looks to his left and tells a couple of the people that just ran out of the shot, "Get over here, help him." And they come over with a fucking Kleenex. And it looks like he's been beheaded, like he's had brain surgery. He's covered in blood. And they come over with a Kleenex to blot his head. But if they were 10 feet away, then why wouldn't they already be administering that aid? Because when Page said, "Come here, get in here, help him," they were there in 3 steps. It's a goddamn shit show. And then Page stalks off after they're applying the compresses to Daniels' head. And
he double parked.
And he double parked with the ambulance. No, that was Edge with the ambulance.
Yeah, but how are you going to get an ambulance in there?
Prius, well, the Prius with the fucking bullhorns might have gotten away of the ambulance.
That's right.
The point is, now we've said here's why it's happening. And we've heard this. They've been saying this, that they do not have, apparently, I thought they just may have a quick one or an insufficient one. They don't have any production meetings. Because now we're hearing people are saying, well, Tony doesn't have the show ready in time to have a production meeting before they go do it. Or is that because he's still writing it because he's overworked or he's confused? Or is that because, as we've also heard, a lot of the guys just come in and tell him what they're going to fucking do, which is why it looks like a clip show, a series of different vignettes of wrestling rather than an actual cohesive program. And if they don't have a production meeting, then they are not laying it all out in one place in front of the crew for people to see that it's redundancy repeated redundantly. But the production meeting, not to go off on a soapbox here, but the production meeting is not for the matches or the interviews as relates to how the talent performed them. It is for everybody else, the announcers, the crew, the cameraman, the director, the sound, all the other. It is the production meeting is for how you shoot the matches and the interviews. And even if the people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, if you're not cueing them before you go live to them and they're punching themselves in the face, that's not good. Or if nobody knows how to get out of the way of the other camera and they're doing it on the air, it looked like that show from the BBC, the Goes Wrong show. The production meeting, which again in the WWE of the 90s or F, the production meeting for a pay-per-view that the bell time was at 8 o'clock. We were having a meeting at 11 in the morning. And in TNA for a 7 o'clock, I think, or 8 o'clock pay-per-view, it would be noon, even TNA. For television, if it was 7 or 7:30, we were ringing the bell. We were doing a production meeting by 1 o'clock. And that's the WWF. They have a big budget. They have a big crew. Still, whatever I've been involved in, the time may change, but Ring of Honor, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, OVW, TNA, NWA, MLW, other productions that I've been involved in, the crew may be smaller or larger. The time may be different because people may be doing 2 or 3 different jobs or, snatch and grab to get them there. But you have to go over the show in front of the head of each department of the production, as well as the main players like the top handheld camera guys and etc. So that and ask the questions that we've talked about here in the past. When a format's read and they just gloss over something that obviously the announcers would have a question about, how do we cover this? Or the director would have a question, well, wait a minute, how you need to shoot that? You ask those questions then. You bring up what can possibly go wrong, what might not be understood by the viewer, even though we know it because we wrote the goddamn thing and they're just watching it. It's a whole nother set of meetings that you have with the talent on the matches and the finishes and the interviews. That's more meetings, which is why this is such a high stress fucking job when you're on a shoestring budget and doing these productions. But there's a lot of details to nail down. If they're either not having production meetings because Tony doesn't have his shit together, or because the guys are still making up their own fucking morality plays, then that's why that these mistakes are happening and that this shit, in some cases, looks so amateur because they're shooting it on the fly based on what somebody, well, yeah, when that happens, just shoot it. Well, it ain't that fucking easy, morons. And a lot of these guys have never been on, any kind of mainstream television production before, but a lot of them have. But that's what first impressed me about, I'm sorry, I'll get off this box in a second. But that's for what first impressed me about MJF when I met him in MLW. He not only came up and was asking questions of us in the announce booth on, not only bringing up things that he might do that we could say or call, but also just asking us questions. And he asked the crew, the technical crew, questions about the setup or the post-production or how will this look. He wanted to learn everything. And that was instantly refreshing because some of these fucking numbnutses have been in the goddamn business where their primary exposure is on television for 10 years and they don't know how to fucking work television or lay television out or give cues for television or goddamn explain their angle or their match or their finish or their whatever they're going to do for the television crew so that they can understand it. And now I'm fucking pissed off now. Your thoughts?
I don't. There was a lot there.
It's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but it just is. You can't do this on national television. We put more preparation into OVW TV.
Well, you hit on something that's a big topic here. The production meetings or lack thereof. We've heard whispers about it, or we've heard direct comments about it for a while. Stories started coming out just recently again. Brian Alvarez talked about it. The idea that there aren't production meetings, the idea that apparently Tony Khan is not done writing the show until so late in the day that they can't do it. What does that tell you, and why would it take so long to write this show? Where there's long multi-segment matches and... I mean, is there anything that would prevent a production meeting that you see?
Well, but yes, there is. Not that it's not necessary, but I can see what they're doing. there's not just long multi-segment matches, but there's multiple run-ins and everything. And we just saw the fuck up with Thunder Rosa and the other Megan Brain and Penelope Pitstop or whatever, where they didn't know what the fuck was going on, or obviously some part of that equation didn't know what was going on. And if it's last minute shit and inexperienced people, we don't know. But the point is that, again, like I said, it's not that there's a lot of shit going on these shows. There's too much going on, but they could be written in time to do them professionally. And if you are not doing them at the point where they can be finished at noon or 1 the day of the show so you can tell everybody how to do their job, then you need to change the way you're doing the fucking show, don't you? And again, is it because because we know that Tony will stay up for hours on end writing wrestling and talking about wrestling, but is it not done because he's waiting after he tells these guys what he wants them to do, what they go and figure out what they're going to do, and then they come back and tell him, then he knows. I mean, because none of this is cohesive. It wasn't written from one mindset from start to finish as a program with thought given to not repeating the same kind of angles or using the same kind of objects or doing the same things in the finishes or the afterbirths, or even allotting a certain number of shits and other miscellaneous curse words to specific people. It's just whatever gets fucking done in a segment. So is Tony waiting for instructions and then, it's too late to give it out? Or is he just having a nervous breakdown, a mental collapse, and is rushing to make it to air? But something needs to be done different. I mean, we're seeing this more often now.
Even if you're a control freak and it's just about you wanting control over your show, you still have to make sure the production knows what to shoot and what not to shoot and when to do it.
Well, and maybe is this the reason behind the fake walls that they were infatuated with there for a while, wherever they would build a fake drywall wall in an arena to put somebody through it? Were they not consulting the producer of the entire show and the director or anybody in the truck, a cameraman, to say, well, no, that's going to look as phony as a football bat. Of course you can't do that like that. We can't shoot it that way. Is the production crew seeing this for the first time? They're just saying, he's going to run him through the wall and just shoot it. And then so they don't know how to shoot around the fact that there's no stud for 6 feet, which would be against every building code in the United States of America. This shit has to be gone over. It's details. Why do you think I'm a fucking insane person? I'm thinking of all those goddamn things that could go wrong on television shows for 25 fucking years. But you have to. You have to think of everything that can go wrong and walk through every way you can shoot everything. And there's been many times in the past where I couldn't do that because we didn't have the budget or the time, and we were shooting a TV show in a fucking closet somewhere. But at that level, with that budget and that amount of people working for you, every detail ought to be nailed down. That's just my fucking point. And this is ridiculous. But anyway, I want to see a meme on Twitter of that camera crew scurrying away from the shot when they realize that they're in Paige's camera. And then they introduced Don Fallis and Kyle Felcher in a skybox with a spotlight in the arena. Bear in mind, we haven't had a match yet. And then they went back in the back earlier today. Well, first they showed Jericho and Bandito on Collision or whatever it was, and they had just a classic match, according to Jericho. And he's speaking like a real person again in the back with Renee. And he's made a deal with Don Fallis, and Don and Kyle are walking out of the locker room that Brian Keith, the bounty hunter, is going to take out Will Ospreay tonight. So that's the deal. So again, it doesn't make Don looked bad because he's a Weasley manager, but doesn't it make Jericho? Well, it makes Don look bad in terms of that he thinks that this could possibly happen. Brian Keith would take out Osprey. But if Jericho's, this is the best he's got to. And then they go right into that match. We're 15 minutes into the show already, and we got Osprey versus Brian Keith, the bounty hunter who was introduced at 189 pounds. It's the first time in my life I've ever felt sympathy for the bounty hunter. I hope the little fella doesn't get hurt. The fuck do you think? Who was the people that would collect bounties that heels would put on baby faces in years gone by? Abdullah the Butcher, Bruiser Brody, goddamn King Kong Bundy, whatever. But Brian Keith at 189 pounds, who's never won a match on this television program. But he's going to beat up the top babyface. Actually, he did beat up the top babyface. It took 12 minutes for Osprey to beat him. I think he could. It might take Osprey 6 or 7 minutes against a fucking 8th grader. If that, I weighed 189 pounds in 8th grade. That's because of Mama Cornette's cooking. And then
the bounty hunter, Jim Cornette.
Well, there you go. Hey, I'm bigger. I'm right now. I weigh 191 pounds. I'm bigger than Brian Keith. And I got 6 inches on him. And I'm taller too.
Come on.
And then Osprey jumped out of the ring and ran up the stairs, and Kyle ran down the stairs from the skybox, and they had a short fake fight in the stands that was broken up by security. So there you got that going on. Any comments, or should I move on?
Yeah, there's nothing really to add to that wonderful match.
So we were half an hour into the program with all this nonsense. Then they did a package on Mercedes Moné and Momo Giancana. What is her name? Momo's name?
Oh, I don't want to mispronounce it, and I certainly will because I don't remember it exactly, so I would just be guessing. And
okay, the Mercedes and Momo package, and then there was Mercedes in the back cutting a promo about a Momo wannabe. That's what it is, Momo wannabe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I didn't realize it was the same one. Yeah.
And then Mercedes sees some girl who's standing there and starts getting snippy with her and slaps a drink out of her hand. And the girl is a lousy actor. And then she identified herself as, you know who I am. And nobody knew who the fuck because she died. Never seen her on this fucking television show before. And then she said, I'm Billy Starks from Ring of Honor. Okay. Do you remember seeing Billy Starks from Ring of Honor on AEW Dynamite?
Maybe once, because I remember we saw her once. She was like 18 years old or something, like still in high school or right out of high school. She was a prodigy. Like
well, there yet she's from Louisville. She's the one from Louisville. Yes.
Like Nick Wayne for the women's division.
That's been so long ago. I think she's graduated college by now. Yeah, she might not have graduated, but she's old enough to. Anyway, she's not a great actor, but she was telling Mercedes off when Momo came up from behind Mercedes with a baseball bat, and Mercedes turned around and looked at her and screamed and ran off. So we are getting... Again, they could have got something out of this flop that Mercedes has been by Harley going over the other day, or at least we get a rematch, but instead we get Mercedes and Momo wannabe. What is the matter with these people? Why do they think that anybody's going to give a shit about Momo?
And this is them establishing Momo, because other than that, she's an unknown entity on this program.
But she's got a bat. We don't want no Momo. So then we got the Outriggers versus Brian Cage and Lance Archer. And I wrote, what the hell? They had a match. The Hurt Syndicate music played. One of the Outriggers dropped behind Lance Archer and rolled him up 1, 2, 3. And the Hurt's then smiled in the entranceway. But so just, I can understand if a guy jumps up on the apron or throws something into the ring at you or whatever. But when music plays, why do people have to turn in that direction and stand there dumbfounded, even if the fucking person whose music is playing is coming out? He's fucking 75 feet away. You can kick this guy in the balls real quick and get away with it. But that's now on both companies. Music plays, everybody freezes like they're fucking frozen in amber. Standing there with their jaws on the ground. Oh my God, it's music. I'm grumpy, ain't I?
No, I mean, it is one of those logic loopholes in wrestling. Unless they really dig the tune, I guess. But I guess we get Hurt Syndicate.
It's not like it's Desperado.
Are you ready for Hurt Syndicate versus Cage and Archer?
Well, yes and no. Because Cage, I've just, if he was going to get it, he'd got it by now. And Archer needs a good long break and come back with some consistency. Maybe go away and learn a new hold. But if the Hurts can get anything out of him.
He was off TV for like a year and a half or something.
Well, that's. If anybody can get anything out of them is what I'm trying to say, Shelton and Bobby can. We will see what happens. But at least they're strong enough to dictate the direction of the thing and keep the pace going. Because otherwise, those two guys are so big. If their opponents are smaller, they can't move them around. Nevertheless, we were at almost 9 o'clock now. And then I swear to, at 8:55, here comes Swerve Strickland and Prince Nana. And they do a promo on Ricochet. And then Ricochet comes out, and he's still wearing the embassy robe that was stolen from Prince Nana. I wonder if they had to shorten it for Ricochet to wear it. Seems like it would be dragging the ground. The fans booed the shit out of Ricochet, which was the loudest of the night because I think they legitimately now do not like him because he's such a putz. He's like a discount Dominic Mysterio. So they're trying to do the boo thing over him. There's not enough people in the building. But Nana and Swerve want a rematch, and Ricochet doesn't want it. And then Nana says, well, the winner will be the number one contender for the AEW title. And then Ricochet says, well, okay, but not tonight. We'll do it at Revolution. So that means that either Swerve Strickland or Ricochet would then face Jon Moxley for the AEW title if they indeed honor the number one contender stipulation. Do you want to see Ricochet versus Dick the Boozer?
Yeah, actually, that sounds like it could be all sorts of what the hell are they doing working together? Yeah, I'd like to see that. I don't want to see any more Swerve. I'm sick of Swerve.
Well, that's the problem is we're going to be stuck with Swerve versus Dick the Boozer, and we've seen that already. So they're probably not going to end up going through with the stipulation. But anyway, Ricochet looked like a small child in this shot. And then right at the 9 o'clock hour, they're done with that business and Ricochet left. But Nana then said, I got to talk to you, boss. And he tells Swerve that he's been working hard, making the AEW title and, everything. But Swerve has to go back to the dangerous guy that he used to be. Should be the number one priority. And Nana's taking a lot of bullets for Swerve, so Nana needs Swerve to get that robe back, or elsewise I just don't know if I can do this anymore. And then Nana walked out on Swerve. And do what anymore? Constantly be the weak link? If they keep saying that Nana's done all these things for Swerve, but every time it's portrayed as he's the fucking flunky. He got one time he bowed up and got some balls to him, right? But anyway, now Nana's threatening Swerve that he's going to bail on this whole sweet, sweet fucking bird's nest on the ground they got unless Swerve gets Nana's bathrobe back from the fucking nerd flippy-doo guy. This is gripping fucking adult entertainment.
All right, well, Ricochet, wrestler name or a porn star, Jim?
Well, because I'll tell you what, if he got Peter North, he might bounce back. So now we got Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly against FTR and Danny Garcia. And is this a rib? Now, who are the heels here? And no, FTR's been teaming up with Edge. Danny Garcia is supposed to be the young, fair-haired boy, even though he doesn't have any hair. But Cole and Roddy and O'Reilly, weren't they just baby faces? Weren't we just supposed to like them? Because who were they? I'm so confused. And FTR came out, nobody gave a shit. Garcia came out, nobody gave a shit. Except Cole and Roddy and O'Reilly, except for the fans like to hit their cues on the Cole music. They didn't give a shit here either. They've nullified all these fucking guys. And then we talked about when I mentioned on the Raw match, the incredible finish, and that it was brilliant. That's what made the match spectacular. And they did a bit of that. FTR did a bit of that themselves back in the old days, having a really good finish before they ended up here where guys couldn't keep up with them. But this was, Dax got the sharpshooter on Roddy. O'Reilly came up and got a front face lock on Dax while he still had the sharpshooter. But Cash got the abdominal stretch on O'Reilly from behind. And while all that went on, Garcia was going to give Cole a pile driver, and Cole just double-legged him and jackknifed him 1, 2, 3. And everybody stood there. And then Garcia offered a handshake to Cole, and Cole was going to take it, but O'Reilly kicked Garcia's hand, so Cash shoved O'Reilly. And then they all started shoving each other, and Cole and Garcia were the ones that I think were calming the others down. And then we got word that Tony Khan had announced that Saturday night on Collision, it's going to be Adam Cole versus Danny Garcia for the TNT title. And there was people didn't give a shit to any of this. This is, if this is what's taking him so long to put together, maybe make it a little fucking simpler. Did you have any pertinent thoughts on this, Brian? I hate to be keeping you up.
The crowd was noticeably silent at the start of this in an awkward way. I hear one of the kids screaming in the background. It's getting late here, folks. No, I have nothing else to add to this.
I thought that was that special panic room you had put in. Every time you put somebody in there, they panic.
That's not the case, but let's move on with Dynamite because let's not get stuck on this match.
Okay, in the back, where it's always dangerous. The shit's happening in the back. In the back, Claudio Castagnoli is looking for Edge. He's walking through the hallway looking for Edge. Guess what happened within 5 seconds of this shot coming up on the air, Brian?
He found Edge.
No, Edge found him.
Well, I mean, that's what I meant.
Edge jumped him. What the fuck? They just happened to come up at the exact moment that this Pearl Harbor attack. They get in a fight and they go out in the arena. Never seen anything like that before. And they fight walk to the ring. And then there's Wheelie Useless out to jump Edge, and they beat Edge up with a chair. But then Jay White came out in the entranceway. And they turned around because his music was playing, and Edge, who had just been beaten mercilessly with a chair, got up and took the chair away and beat up Claudio and Wheeler. And then Marina Shafir jumps in the ring, and she jumps on Edge's back. And while she's on his back, Wheelie comes with the knee, but Edge moves, and Wheelie hits Marina with a knee, and she goes down and stays there. Immobile, unconscious, potentially stone cold graveyard dead. We never see her move a muscle again. Bear in mind. Jay White now gets in the ring laughing at all the things that have transpired and gives Wheeler his finish. And then Edge takes a chair and starts wearing Claudio out, and then puts Claudio on the chair and milks a concerto and does it, and you could see right through it. They had the shot from the side. Not only did you could see through it, but now the person taking it is not selling it in any way. Their body doesn't spasm, their legs don't flap, their arms don't twitch. Nothing happens. Because for one, they're already ludicrously unconscious for a long period of time, and they're being placed on a chair and expected not to be able. There are people in medically induced comas that have more movement than the people that are being put on this fucking chair. And of course, they don't want to move beforehand because they'll get their brains knocked out. But it is the phoniest, stupidest fucking movie. It can't be done realistically. Unless the guy's brain explodes into tomato sauce and blood shoots everywhere, it's a bullshit thing. So he milked it and he did it. And Claudio just lays there, didn't move a muscle when he got hit. Then Dick the Boozer comes to ringside, our friend Mr. Moxley, and he pulled Wheeler over the rail to save him. And in the ring, there was Edge pulling Marina Shafir over to set her up for a concerto. She is still completely unconscious from the knee that she took, and it's been at 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, if you're that unconscious, normally there's brain damage involved, right? That long. And he milked it forever. Was he going to do it? Is he not going to do it? And then music plays. And here comes Willow. And Willow just comes down and rolls into the ring. And Jay White is down on the floor with a chair holding Dick the Boozer back from coming over the rail. Now he's scared of something. Jay White with a chair, when he's been beating up 4 baby faces at a time, Jay White with a chair. Ah, fuck Marina. She's on her own. And Willow gives the concerto to Marina Shafir. It also looks bullshit. And she doesn't move a muscle, doesn't even twitch. And they've been immobile. They're laying there for minutes to begin with. I mean, people turn over in their fucking sleep. And then they played music and went to the break. And I said, good God. And it was 9:30. Have I overstated the case of how rotten this was and how nobody gave a fuck and how phony it looked?
I thought it was awful, but I thought it was just me because I think all the Moxley stuff is awful. And again, he's trying to look concerned, and luckily Willow's music hit, because why run into brain someone if you don't have your pleasant music playing?
Well, and they couldn't have Edge do it because that would be a guy hitting a girl with a chair. So instead of just saying maybe we shouldn't give the girl brain damage with the chair in terms of what the fuck, she's going to come back next week, her eyes not black, her nose isn't broken, her cheekbones, she got no cuts, no lumps from that. But that's what they did there. And they had the go home stretch, half an hour. So they stuck Harley Cameron and Deonna Purrazzo in that spot. That happened, and that took a while. Unfortunately, I looked away. But then in the back, as a continuation of what had just gone on, Claudio and Marina have been loaded into the back of the ambulance. They're on the gurneys, and they're still totally unconscious, totally immobile. They're not moving. And the ambulance drivers and the people are in there, and then the doors close, and it's Edge, Jay White, and Willow that are closing the doors and give the ambulance the pat on the door for them to pull out. When's the last time that you saw the people that injured the person allowed to be the people that closed the door on them and after they put them in the ambulance? I wrote, is this written by a third grader? And then finally, we come to the main event. Just when I thought it can't get any worse, it can get worse. The main event was for the Intercontinental title with Pockets against Take a Shit. And again, and I call him Take a Shit because if they want us to take him seriously, they wouldn't do shit like this with him. To put him in with the way past stale joke, like, 6-month-old Fritos. Just, bleh. They need to fold their tent. If this is the best they can do, if a television program that started out with a guy punching his own self in the face on camera and ends up with a ridiculous clown joke match that matters not to anything involving the worst goof in the company, they need to fold up if that's the best they can do. Yes, I used the Wolfman in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but not on top and mostly in tag team matches. And Tony doesn't need the job guy clown's rich friend to put money in the company because he's got his own. So, and Pockets doesn't have a rich friend except for Tony. So why is he still on fucking television in any capacity? It's just unprofessional. And they didn't get a run over or an overrun, or they may have got run over. I don't know. Because they actually had soccer on after this show. Instead of Joe Schmo or reruns of Modern Family, they had to get out on time. So they've lost that opportunity to artificially inflate, although lately it's been deflating Pockets' numbers. But that was a Dynamite episode of Dynamite, Brian.
Well, you mentioned the numbers. Why don't we speak about them with some specifics here?
Well, speak specifically about the specificity of their species.
AEW Dynamite ratings. I don't know about the species, but AEW Dynamite ratings, February 26th, Wednesday night on TBS, 8 to 10 p.m., not counting Max, 598,000 viewers.
Ouch. Well, it's not far, but they dropped below the 600,000 mark again, even though they've been at 604 and 605. So it's more of a moral defeat rather than a huge drop from the miserable numbers they've been doing.
Dynamite ranked approximately number 5 for the night on cable in the key demo. Number 1, the 76ers versus the Knicks, followed by the Spurs versus the Rockets. When you hear those names, should they come up with better tag team names, AEW, and try to compete with any of these other? And then Fox News actually takes over here. Let's go now to the quarterly hour breakdown. Quarter 1, these were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m., the MJF tattoo promo, Aaron Solo versus Adam Page, the post-match with MJF and Christopher Daniels, the Jericho promo, and Will Otwell promo, his confrontation with Callis, and the Will Ospreay entrance, 735,000 viewers.
Good Lord. Okay, I believe that was a better open than they did last week, and not what they used to do, but still something, and they're going to drop like a stone, it looks like, to make this average.
Well, we go to quarter 2, Will Ospreay versus the Bounty Hunter, Brian Keith, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. with picture-in-picture ads. 682,000 viewers.
And that's 53,000 people, not as big as a lot of their quarter 2 drops are. So we'll have to wait to see who the real culprit is.
And quarter 2 is up on the 90-day trend here. Quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. An ad break. Mercedes Moné and Billy Starks' promo. The Outrunners
Or Billy
video,
Spears.
The Outrunners video, and the start, or the entirety, of the Outrunners versus Brian Cage and Lance Archer with picture-in-picture. 636,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay, now there goes another nearly 50,000. We're 100,000 down, 99 to be exact, from the start in 45 minutes. This is starting to go, well, still, that's not as bad as normal.
Well, quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. John Moxley and Adam Copeland's video, or just Cope, an ad break, and the Ricochet Swerve Strickland live promo, 635,000 viewers.
Well, they 1,000 different. They pretty much stayed flat. So that's a tribute to those folks holding what they had. Not looking good for the final quarter, is it?
Well, if you look at the rundown of what's on the remainder of the show, ask me what would hold an audience. We go now to the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. The Undisputed Kingdom versus Daniel Garcia and FTR with picture-in-picture ads. 571,000 viewers.
Ouch. At the top of the hour, they lost 64,000 people. That's not a good sign.
No, it is not. We go now to quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The post-match with Cope and the Death Riders. An ad break. The Harley Cameron and Deonna Purrazzo entrances. 523,000 viewers.
Okay, there went another 48,000. Now we are 212,000 down from the start.
Well, we go now to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The continuation of Cameron versus Purrazzo with picture-in-picture ads and the Orange Cassidy Takeshita video, followed by an ad break. 497,000 viewers.
Oh, Lord, they're getting to the point where they're finishing in the fours on Wednesday night. We've been covering this for a while, and it ain't been happening until lately.
Well, we go now to quarter 8, 9:45 to 10 p.m. No overrun this week. Konosuke Takeshita versus Orange Cassidy, picture-in-picture ads. 502,000 viewers. The final 3 quarters, all under 200,000 in the key demo. 193, 196, 198.
And old Pocket's got 5,000 people across the country to come back from the bathroom long enough to see him there. So they lost from start to finish 233,000 viewers out of starting with 735, 233, 466, 690, 70. They lost 30%, maybe 31% of the audience that they started with. That's a pretty hefty chunk. Not unsuspected, not surprising, but still disheartening if you were pulling for these people to make a turnaround in their malaiseful ratings.
You need talent. You need the booking, but you also need the talent. And there are very few people there who make you get excited about seeing them. I have to see what they're going to do the next week. There's very few people, very few angles, very few feuds right now.
Actually, I want to see almost everybody in AEW next week.
Oh.
Rather than this week, if I could wait a week to see any of them, it would help me out.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite.